That's correct.
Antini, I broke it. You broke it. Is it on?
It's on now. It's trying.
Whole switch is on. Mic in, sensitivity set,
There's some more
audio.
chairs in the middle of here. There's also probably some more chairs in the closet. You want to grab it? The closet next to the closet. Yeah, no, like outside. Oh, yeah.
That looks like it's recording. Yeah, why not? Alright, I'll just take record. That's what I gotta do, is record again. Do they need help or they? I'll do it if I have it. Hello, everybody. I apologize for the delay. It appears we are up and live recording, so those who couldn't be in attendance tonight can now view. Apologize, we got some chairs out. Thank you guys for doing that. There is a sign-in sheet on the table. If you haven't signed in, please sign in on your way out. That way we have a record of who's here. So I'd like to start by welcoming you all here. I'm excited to see this many people. I wish we had this many people always, and I mean that very sincerely. There's sometimes we make decisions and we wish we had more input. So with that being said, we are going to take things out of order tonight from the agenda, and we might as well just start off with item number 4, which I presume is why everyone is here. Of course, you're all welcome to stay if you'd like to view the others. I do want to remind you guys of a couple of things tonight, because not everybody is familiar with this, and I certainly wasn't when I started on the Planning Commission, of the scope of the Planning Commission, just so that there's no misunderstandings. So as a Planning Commission, we're allowed to approve 2 things. The first thing that we're allowed to approve as a Planning Commission without elected official input is in fact the landscaping plan. So that is us. If you guys have a bone to pick with the number of trees on any development, that's us. The second thing that we do is we approve the trash location and the screening and make sure that that's approved. Those are the only 2 items that we as a body can approve. Everything else is a recommendation to the elected officials, the city council, for their approval. So just so everyone's clear, I think the premise behind the Planning Commission is to provide additional input and direction, which the city council has proven they will or will not follow, depending on how they feel and view. And that's their prerogative as elected officials. So I just want to make sure before the pitchforks come out and the darts, everybody understands this group doesn't approve anything other than the 2 items I've said. With that being said, tonight's meeting regarding Best Western is entirely informational. It's our time to gather information. So there'll be a couple of things that I think people should know. There's no public comment tonight. That doesn't mean that there won't be public comment in the future. It's just not held at this time. And I think Katie will elaborate on that a little bit more as we go forward. We are going to open it up to public comment because I think we want to hear it early and often, as well as the developer has a right to hear it early and often from those in the immediate vicinity. So I ask that those of you who aren't in the immediate vicinity hold your comments until the appropriate time. So we'll kind of elaborate more on that immediate vicinity as we go on. So with that being said, Katie, would you like to start into your staff report?
Yes, thank you, Justin.
Yeah.
All right, so the proposed hotel site is located on the northwest corner of State Road 32 and Lambert Lane. It's parcel FT 610, and it's 9.92 acres. Just as some background, FT 610, as well as the adjoining villages at Lambert Lane residential subdivision to the west, were annexed into Francis City 20 years ago in 2004. The main benefit to the city from this annexation was the commercial property frontage on State Road 32. The initial developer planned to build out the commercial property before the residential portion, but obviously economic constraints delayed development of the commercial property. So this is a summary for what we're talking about tonight. FT 610 is zone commercial. The applicant is proposing a 3-story, 82-room Best Western plus hotel with trailer and RV parking on the site. Hotels are a conditional use in the C1 zone. The applicant anticipates other commercial businesses will also be located on the site, but this concept review is only for the hotel portion, which is anticipated to have a 2-acre footprint. I'm gonna switch over to the site plan so that you can see that. That shows the entire property and then that footprint. Sorry, hold on. Okay, there we go. So concept plan, what are we doing tonight? The concept plan provides an opportunity for the applicant, city staff, planning commission, and the city council. That will be probably next month, to meet and discuss the proposed project in the conceptual stage. The applicant can use the concept plan meeting to ask questions of the planning commission, city council, and city staff and receive some direction on development, design, and layout. This is their chance to understand what we'd like to see before they spend a lot of money on engineering and design, all those kind of things. The procedures for approval of a commercial development are the city's specifications and requirements may also be that. So we're going to discuss a few things tonight, the procedures for the development, and then our specifications as a city and our requirements. So we'll talk about all those things tonight. So first of all, when we look at a new proposal, we look at our general plan for guidance to see if that falls within it. And the mission statement for Francis City is the City of Francis has a core mission to provide the highest quality of life in a rural atmosphere through essential infrastructure, public safety, and recreation by allowing responsible growth within the constraints of a fiscally responsible government. We updated the general plan last year, so I know you're all very familiar, those of you on the planning commission, with the general plan. But I will go through part of our vision that we gathered from doing our surveys with the residents. And we had several areas that we had a vision. One of those that applies tonight is land use, and another one is economic development. So in the land use vision, our vision is that Francis will continue to be a rural and family-friendly community. Preservation of our agricultural heritage, dark skies, scenic views, and open spaces are our priority. Growth will be sustainable, well-planned, and consistent with the zoning map and general plan. Along with that vision are some policies. Policy to condition development approval on construction of adequate culinary water, sewer, storm drainage, and transportation systems. And also, the commercial uses should be highly accessible and provide adequate access and parking. Now, looking at the economic development side of things. The first goal in that area is the rate of commercial growth will be higher than the rate of residential growth. And along with that goal is a policy to improve, diversify, and increase the tax base. Seek revenue growth from economic development activities to mitigate residential property tax increases. Also, another policy is to buffer commercial and industrial uses from existing single-family residential areas and to maximize revenues from tourism by implementing a transient room tax. Okay. So next, what we're looking at is the concept plan itself, which at this stage isn't a lot of detail. And we will get into a lot more detail later with landscaping, construction plans, all those kind of things. This is very high level. So one of the things we look at this stage is the lot area. There is no minimum lot area in the commercial zone. So like if you live in the residential half zone, then your lot has to be at least a half acre. We don't have that in the commercial zone. And those constraints are dictated by off-street parking requirements, adequate circulation, and property size utilization. Lot area requirements are determined by the Planning Commission and the City Council. Each lot in the commercial zone is required to have a minimum of 35 feet of frontage on a public street. So looking at this, it seems like they're utilizing a small portion of the lot, of the parcel, and that they have enough room for circulation, and they have the appropriate frontage. They have definitely more than 35 feet of frontage, quite a bit more. Next, we look at setbacks and height. Each structure in the commercial zone shall be located at least 20 feet from the property line when adjoining an existing residence. Buildings in the commercial zone shall not exceed 40 feet in height unless an express exemption in the code applies, nor exceed the recommendation of the South Summit Fire District. So looking at the concept plan, they have a fairly wide buffer between the hotel and the residences right here. This is Route 32 up here for reference. So they're planning some parking, trailer parking specifically behind the hotel. So that is definitely more than 20 feet, which is the requirement. And the height, I've heard that the height will be less than 40 feet. And you can look at let's look at this concept now. We'll go back to some of these other ones later. But this is the concept that we're looking at right now, which is a 3-story building, and it's less than 40 feet in height. Okay, next of all is the architectural design and materials. The treatment of building mass, materials, and exterior appurtenances shall create an aesthetically pleasing building and site that is in character with the portions of other surrounding developments. Proposed development shall be designed with a common theme that reflects the heritage and community of Francis City. Themes shall be reviewed and approved by the Planning Commission and City Council and may include, but are not limited to, agricultural or mountain tourism. So the 4-story rendering up here, let's get back for a minute since we're going to look at materials first. So this is the Heber Best Western Plus, and overlaid is the materials that they're planning to use for this building. So this gives you a better idea of the materials, which has some close-ups. There's black metal roofing, the wood siding, stucco in some areas, also painted lapboard and black metal roofing again, and some brick, masonry stone. Okay. Those are the main ones. Going back to this. This is the 3-story rendering, and that's the really the rendering that best represents the overall hotel design. And to me, it looks like they are using the agricultural theme with the modern farmhouse design, materials, and elements. This design theme ties in with the Route 32 development, which is planned nearby. So for those of you who haven't seen this yet, you might have seen on the highway, there's some signs with this, but this was approved a little while ago, a year or two ago, and this is the design for the commercial area that's diagonally across from us. So it's the same developer, and they want to tie in the architectural look over there with the hotel on the other side. So it's
this whole board packet is also on Francis City's
Yeah.
website with all of the pictures if you guys want further pictures.
yeah, thank you, McKenna, for mentioning that. It is all on the website, so you can get it all there.
And a few folks in the back, there might be chairs just right outside if you need them. Okay.
So if you go to francisutah.gov, agendas and minutes, there's packets posted there with all of this. Okay? So going back to this one. And this is another view of that, what's planned on the diagonal corner. Okay. So the Premier Pet Lodge and Villages at Lamlet Lake subdivision also utilize the agricultural design team. So it seems to be a similar pattern in that area. Next, we'll look at buffers, fences and walls. Buffer treatment may be required whenever a change occurs between residential and non-residential uses. Additional landscaping and screening may be required where differing uses are being developed adjacent to existing residential areas, which applies in this case. Special considerations shall be made to protect the privacy of residents, and requirements shall be at the discretion of the Planning Commission and City Council. Buffer treatment will very likely be required for this project because of the adjoining residential use. We don't have to decide on anything tonight, but I put it out there just for everyone to start keeping in mind since it will be coming back to us sometime soon, likely. Okay, parking, let's go back to the site plan. Sorry, everyone. Okay. So, our code says that parking is strongly encouraged to be located on the side and to the rear of any proposed structures with minimum parking between the front of the building and the street. Parking shall not occur adjacent to any public street. One parking spot per room is required. Parking is not planned adjacent to the street. It will likely be placed behind a future structure on the site. So there's a building pad up here that will have some type of future commercial building there. So it's not, parking's not right on 32. That's what we like to see. And it also shows, I counted, it's hard to tell right now, but about 12 trailer parking stalls behind the hotel and about 37 regular size stalls in front of the hotel. Our code requires one parking spot per room. So if we're looking at 82 rooms, then we need at least 82 parking spots. So right now they're showing about just shy, well, not just shy, they need about 33 more parking stalls to get to the 82 room level of what they need. So they'll have to add in some more parking or decrease the number of rooms or a combination of both. Okay, so getting to the end of my staff report, I actually did two recommendations, one to the commission, one to the applicant. So to the commission, this is a little bit different than what we've seen in a while. Just a reminder that it's a discussion item only. No approval of a concept plan is required or given. So tonight, there's no motion, there's no recommendation, just purely informational and discussion. Prior to the meeting, studied the concept plan, the staff reports. Hopefully you all done that. I think you have. And consider the city codes and the general plan. During the meeting, discuss the project, answer the applicant's questions, and provide direction on development, design, and layout. Okay, my recommendation to the applicant right now is to ask questions of the city staff and planning commission. That's why we're here tonight. Consider incorporating direction given on development design and layout into the concept plan before the next concept plan review with the city council. Submit the concept plan to the South Summit Fire District for review and submit the concept plan to UDOT for review for the access point on SR 32 and to determine if the project warrants a turn lane or other traffic control measures. Like Justin mentioned, this is not a public hearing tonight for this item. But it's recommended in the code that neighbors of the proposed project be consulted to get their views and concerns. When we get to the conditional use permit process portion of this whole approval, which it's hard to say when that will be, but when we get to that, we will hold public hearings and we will notice those public hearings at least 10 days in advance on our website. So you can keep an eye out for those. That's it for me.
All right. I wanted to clear up a few things I saw on social media. Please don't take this as my in favor or disfavor. I merely want to present facts, and I saw a lot of things that, having been involved in the city over the last year and a half, that just weren't accurate. So I'm going to bullet point through those real quick, and then we'll get along with the process. So Katie, can you please really quickly, just on a high level, let's go over the whole process so that people know which meetings they may or may not want to attend.
Okay, so tonight we're at the first concept plan review. This is the first public meeting we've held on this proposed hotel at all. We will have another concept plan review with the city council that will likely be in October, the October 10th meeting. Don't know that for sure, but tentatively we're planning on that. Then after the developer has had some time to take all of our comments and go back to the drawing board and get all their plans in order, so they do have a lot of planning to do, engineering plans, UDOT studies, those kind of things. Then they'll come back to us and they'll be applying for two things, call it site plan approval, which really is a lot of different things, but site plan approval and then the conditional use permit. So those two are handled concurrently. The site plan review encompasses a lot of different things. That's looking at the trash storage, the landscape plan, the site plan, the architectural design and materials, buffers, fences and walls, parking, and the outdoor lighting plan. So we'll be looking at all of that. Some point later, there will be a public hearing when we talk about the conditional use permit, and it will go to planning commission and then it will go to city council. So overall, there will be at least 4 public meetings when we talk about this item.
Got it. Thank you. Scott, can you give us a quick rundown on the current state of the water supply and the ability to handle the expansion of the improved development in this hotel?
Sure. In 2018, the city did a capital facilities plan to determine our needs for the next 20 years. So we've accomplished that, and in that, we needed to build a new tank and well, and we've done both those things. So we're looking good for between 2035, 2038 around there.
Okay. And then just for the benefit of those who might not be aware, the previous water restrictions we had in place over the past couple of years were parts driven for the pumps, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct.
Correct. They weren't about supply. They were an issue with the pump. Okay. Scott, do we recommend, encourage, or require a traffic survey to be completed prior to the issuance of a building permit?
For commercial, we require them as part of the development process. We require them to do a traffic study to see how it'll affect our roads. They'll probably have to do something for UDOT also to tie into their street. They already have an approved access, but I don't know what the time they didn't have a hotel proposed, so they'll have to go back to UDOT and make sure that their access meets UDOT standards too. So.
Perfect. And the last question for you, Scott, are there any wetlands to your knowledge that are being impacted in this area?
As part of this subdivision, the whole thing that was done 20 years ago, they've been doing wetland studies. We have approved wetland delineation from the Corps of Engineers that shows the wetlands are not part of where they're building. There are wetlands out there, but they're not part of where they're building. So
It's sitting in the pond right now, that's not the wetlands?
that's, Corps of Engineers has approved the wetlands delineation.
And then real quick.
Scott, do you want to explain what the Army Corps of Engineers is and what their role is with
I've
wetlands?
talked to her.
The Army Corps,
Second opinion, maybe?
the Army Corps of Engineers is that's who you have to go to show that you have wetlands or don't have wetlands. They make the decision, you do the study, you submit the information to them, and they say they agree with it or they don't. So lots of studies were done, turned into the Corps of Engineers, they agree with their delineation, and it's approved delineation by the Corps. You can do a grant request to the city to get a copy of it if you'd like to see it, but there is an approved delineation for that property.
And then, Katie, does the city council have the ability to prevent developers who own land zoned as commercial from being developed as commercial?
Generally, no. So when we get a potential commercial project in, part of what we're doing at this meeting actually is looking at our list of allowed in conditional uses in our commercial zone. There's a big table in there that says, these are all the things that you can do in our commercial zone. It's like, welcome to Francis. This is what we expect to see in this zone. So if it's an allowed use, then it is allowed. And of course, they have to go through this process that I talked about, and we have to make sure that they're meeting all of the codes. And they have to go through all those steps. But yes, it's allowed. It's really an administrative item. It's not like we're deciding whether or not to allow it, because that decision has already been made before it came to us.
And then,
But a conditional use, it's a little different. It's still really not an approve or deny. I talked to the city attorney about that. We've had this discussion multiple times since I've been the planner. And with the laws in the state of Utah, we view conditional uses as allowable with conditions. So we can add reasonable conditions to mitigate any negative factors. They have to be reasonable, but we can add conditions to the project. That's what a conditional use is.
understood. And then last question for you, Katie. Would this be subject to our commercial outdoor lighting code?
Absolutely. So they'll have to submit a commercial outdoor lighting plan. We will be looking to make sure that all of the lights are full cut off. They have to be directed downward. We look at the number of lumens per acre, and that has to be reduced after 11 p.m. And then they're not allowed to have any lights higher than 18 feet because they're adjacent to residential.
Gotcha. And the last thing I saw, there was some concern regarding the ability for a ladder truck. And it's my understanding, I saw a reply by a member of the city council, which indicated there's a 100-foot ladder truck currently for South Summit. I cannot.
I verified that with
Oh, you did? Okay, so that has been approved, and they would need approval from the fire district as a part of that, right?
correct.
Yeah, we'll have them coordinate with the fire district and make sure that.
Make sure it meets the requirements. Okay, so I think that covers all the things that I saw throughout the post. We're all neighbors, we're all in the same.
What about noise ordinance? For all the surrounding houses, and this will
Yeah.
not be their backyard.
Yeah, so it's not open for public comment.
It's just a question.
No, I understand, but I'm trying to nail down as many of the ones that I've seen online that are blatantly wrong, and just give everybody the information.
So the city does have a noise ordinance. We actually are discussing it tonight, not related to this project at all, but we do have a noise ordinance, so they'll have to follow that.
So stick around for that. Awesome. So with that, I think we're ready to turn it over to the developer.
There's some representatives here.
I think everyone's looking around during the meeting trying to figure out who it's gonna be.
Oh, we know.
Like, wait, who's got the man bun? Members of the planning commission, city staff, my name is Josh Call. I represent Arwood Development at this meeting tonight. I'm just gonna start us out. I appreciate Katie's thorough analysis. I appreciate the clarifications. I appreciate the process of what we're doing here. As been stated, this is not a time for decisions to be made. This is a time for questions. This is a time for discussion. A couple weeks back, a sign went up on parcel FT 610 and said, "Coming soon, Best Western." Okay? The intent behind that was twofold. The first intent is that we want this process to be transparent. We don't want there to be any secrets. This is the first step of the public period, right? To where the public knows about it in a public setting. That sign was put up so that people would know, because at the end of the day, if we get to the end of this process, whatever happens, and somebody says, "I didn't know," then we as a community have failed in our jobs, because everyone should know what's happening. The sign is there so that people know it's still there. Number two, the reason why that sign is up is because as the developer, we're committed to listening to the comments, concerns, frustrations, the support, the dissent we're open to all of the things that are gonna be brought up. Some of it is gonna be able to be applied and thought through, other is not going to be able to be applied and thought through. The development is committed to following all of the city codes as they are. We're not asking for zone changes. We're not asking for a usage that is not allowed per this zoning area. Quick little backstory I want to share. My family has had property in Oakley. Growing up, I traveled through Francis a lot. I would have to estimate at least over 1,000 times in my lifetime, just driving. Every single time driving through, I've only ever stopped at 3 places. A friend's house, 4-way stop, and here at City Hall, Town Hall, City Hall. First time Town Hall, second time City Hall. 4th time, maybe, I guess, if we count running with the sheriff, but I think for purposes, 3 times is when we've stopped, okay? Every single time we've come through, I've come through with my family, friends, my money stays in my back pocket, and I drive on through. My tax dollars, my tourism dollars, my infrastructure dollars, my dollars. They go on through the city, okay? That is what this development is starting to seek to fix and change. Change is really hard. We all know that, okay? So this development is the first step at trying to follow what has been outlined in the general plan, to allow for commercial development to outpace residential development, to allow for commercial development to bring funding into the city. I'm not going to get into the funding. Kevin here is going to present a little bit and kind of talk through some numbers and things of that nature. But what I just want to express is that the change is hard, but as the developer, we're committed to listening. We're committed to having an open discussion. If we can accommodate things, we will accommodate. If we can't, we can't. But we are committed to following all the codes as they are written. There's no need to run through the staff report again. Katie did a wonderful job with that. Something I would like to point out is that we are very high level. We are very conceptual at this stage. As you saw from the site plan, it is very, very basic. Admittedly, we didn't have parking the way it was supposed to because we changed size of the hotel multiple times in the last few days, few weeks. Everything at this stage, I would say, is still subject to change as we go through this process. We are still looking to make the decisions, and we appreciate the input that's going to come from meetings like this, and I'm sure meetings in the future as we move through this process. With what I've heard, I just want to also highlight that this is the same developer, the theme and motif for the SR32, which is Kitty Corner project. It's a very unique situation in the fact that we're we're having the opportunity to develop those 2 parcels in essentially homogeneous with each other so that their themes match, the motifs match, and we do everything we can to honor the general plan code, the architectural guidelines, all of those things. Again, we are conceptual. Questions you have, I might not have answers to. Most likely I won't have answers to, but I'm committed to getting the answers. So we will get the answers through this process. And so with that, if Kevin would like to come up and talk a little bit, he can introduce himself, and then I'll probably just go find a spot over here and then come back. Hopefully it's still safe to sit where I was sitting.
I don't know, I do my.
I did give my wife the link to the YouTube channel, just in case there was real tars and feathers coming out at me. But thank you, Josh. Just appreciate you coming out and giving kind of a high-level overview of this project. My name is Kevin Henderson. We are the development and management company that's responsible for the sign. That's us. I'm the chief operating officer and co-founder of Henderson 500 Development and Management Company, originally from Vernal, Utah. My parents are here with me, my business partner's here with me in the audience here. But we are the company that intends to build and then manage and operate hotel here in Francis. Our company is small, it's family owned. We've been developing hotels, big and small, since 1997. Started off with a small bed and breakfast in Burlow, Utah, 12 rooms, and just been growing since. Actually all of our properties are in rural communities, like Francis, Heber, some in Colorado, but throughout Utah. Our properties are well managed. They're built tastefully. And we hold them to a higher standard of excellence. We aim for being #1 on TripAdvisor and Google. We frequently win brand awards and are recognized for leading the lodging industry in superior customer care. As Josh mentioned just a few moments ago, in 2017, our company developed the Best Western Plus Heber Valley Hotel down in Heber City. It's anticipated that our proposed hotel here in Francis will have similar build quality, design elements, and amenities as this award-winning property, including a 24-hour pool, hot tub, executive fitness center, complimentary hot breakfast buffet, outdoor fire pit and gathering area, and ample trailer and truck parking, as was shown on our site plan. So I thought it'd just be easiest to clarify and simplify what I'm going to talk about today with some bullet points. Really clean, very transparent, as Josh mentioned. That's how we roll, as we like transparency, we like honesty. Before I got up, I was so impressed that we live in a country and in this community that we are welcome to attend meetings like this. And my hat is off to the community members of Francis. I know you're not here for other items on the agenda tonight, but for this. But I firmly believe that when we stop fighting for what we believe in, and when we teach our children that it's okay to stop fighting for what we believe in, and we don't talk, we don't communicate, that's problematic. That's a problem in our nation. So my hat's off to you for being here tonight. Here's our intentions. We intend to build and operate a 3-story, 72-key, award-winning hotel here in Francis. We intend to brand this hotel as a Best Western Plus. Best Western Plus is an upper mid-scale hotel brand attached to the world's largest hotel chain. I can speak from experience because many of our guests who attend or who visit our Heber Hotel would prefer to stay up here. There's not an option for them, and so I can speak very candidly and honestly about the type of guests that would be occupying this hotel. They're business travelers, they're government travelers, they're sports teams, and they're leisure and corporate groups. They are an upper mid-scale clientele, willing to pay $150 to $200 per night. People ask, I've read the post, why Best Western? Best Western, every hotel in Best Western is independently owned and operated, meaning that we own the property and we have the freedom and the luxury to design these hotels how we would like and how the community would like. They're not stamped out like jelly beans. They're not bland, they're not cold, they're not corporate. Best Western allows us the privilege to design these properties how we see fit. So that's why we choose Best Western. Each of our properties are unique and different. We don't build low quality budget or bland properties. Our intentions are to build a custom hotel that reflects the desires, values, and history of the Francis community. We believe a hotel that you can be proud of. We intend to build a hotel according to the Francis commercial building standards and requirements enforced by local elected officials. We intend to be sensitive to our neighbors and the rural atmosphere of this area by implementing landscape buffering and soft, warm, and welcoming accent lighting. We intend to stimulate the local economy by employing a local labor force. A lot of larger corporations will import their own labor force to run these properties. We don't intend to do that. We don't do that. We employ a local labor force not only to build the hotel, but also to operate it. The positive economic impact of collected transient room taxes, sales and use taxes, and additional money spent in the area by hotel patrons is substantial. Our hotel guests spend money in restaurants, gas stations, event centers, grocery stores, and other local shopping and entertainment outlets. On average, every $100 spent on a hotel room Travelers spend an additional $220 during their trip. We intend to employ Harwood Development to construct this property, and many of Harwood's subcontractors are local community members. In conclusion, we would be honored to build and operate a hotel here in the Francis area community. We are open to feedback on what you and what this community want and need regarding a quality lodging establishment. And with that, I'm happy to answer your questions you may have.
Okay. Scott. Let's go down the line, bud.
First, turn on your microphone, please. Thank you.
Let's see. How about, one of the things that I heard that wasn't addressed in Justin's discussion there at the beginning. Can you talk to us about your experience when it comes to crime concerns on your property? You talked about kind of what you expected in guests.
Yeah.
But you obviously have hotels in different communities other than just Heber. So what are you seeing when it comes to the impact in the community?
Sure, yeah. I think that upper mid-scale hotel will attract a certain clientele. There's crime everywhere. I'm not sure it matters where it is. It's probably going to be happening, right? But we do our best. We run clean properties. We don't run lousy properties, and we attract guests with an upper mid-scale hotel that they're there for business, leisure, family events, sporting events. But I would never say crime doesn't happen in hotels.
Okay.
How long have you owned the property?
This property here,
The one that you're anticipating Best Western?
we have not purchased the property.
Okay, so here's my question.
Sure.
I'm new to the planning commission.
Okay.
And last year, we watched the city council approve an amendment to this law where they were gonna use the back half for residential. And it was supposed to be office buildings like what you see over on 248 where we have a dentist office. Was that not your proposal?
No, ma'am.
So you've acquired this location within the last year?
Yeah, so this is all preliminary. We don't own the property currently. It's not our property.
Okay.
Yeah, this is
Are
just
you not
proposal.
concerned with the lake that's sitting on the property now?
I think that that's for the board and the commission to decide if it's feasible to build on.
How tall is your Best Western Plus in Heber?
Our Best Western Plus in Heber is 56 feet. That's a 4-story building.
Yeah, it's pretty big.
And you're proposing 40 here?
This would be a 3-story building below 40 feet.
That's all I have.
Some things I think for me, as I think about concept plan, as I review the comments online, which this isn't necessarily sanctioned, but it is a way to gather, I think, the general consensus, or at least the loudest voices. There's a tremendous amount of concern regarding the residential in the back. And so I think, as you come forward back to the city council, I would strongly consider a hard barrier fence with fully mature trees. That's probably going to be an expectation I think you'll hear. And have a strong action plan for light and noise pollution. I think, outdoor fire pits and pools are great, but you probably are going to want to have a good, strong plan for those as well, because noise travels here. It is still a very quiet community. That is the thing that I think a lot of people love about this community. Are there, in your hotels or in your design, I know you're very early on in this, are there AC units on the backside like you see in some hotels?
Correct.
You know what?
That's undetermined currently, but yeah, most hotels have a
Right.
individual.
Yeah, it's been a few years on the road.
Yeah.
So that'd be something to think about, right? If you have 82 or 72, I'm not sure which. I caught both 82 on the plan and 72 as you spoke. That's gonna be something we're gonna need to consider, is it, you're the developer, so I'll leave that to you, I guess. I'll stop there. I think, as we've learned, or as we attempt to balance as a city the need for commercial development and growth to ensure that the city continues to be able to sustain itself, I think projecting or at least having some idea of the revenue benefit, and it sounds like you have some general numbers, but I think you'll want to be prepared with maybe potentially some more specifics. So I would look at projected property tax and projected transient room tax potentially annualized so that you could, at least we'd have an idea of the economic impact. Yeah, other than that, those are my biggest concerns and obstacles as I've seen and read them, is gonna be your sound, your light, and your adjacency to the residential area behind you, and how you navigate that. I'll turn it over to you, bud.
Yeah, so, when I think about the adjacency to the residential, one of the biggest concerns that I have and that I've heard people express is privacy. And just putting it out there, I don't know how you can protect people's privacy with a 3-story building. You're gonna have rooms looking down into people's yards, having rooms looking into people's homes. I don't know how you address that concern, but that is a huge concern for people, is how do you ensure privacy and safety when you have people staring down into their rooms all hours of the day and their yards. And so I think that's something to consider. And when we talk about mature trees, there aren't a lot of trees that grow tall enough, you can plant tall enough to create a privacy screen for a 3rd-story room. And I think privacy is weighing heavy on everybody's minds here, so.
Thank you.
She's the hardest one, by the way.
I'm ready.
Definitely not, but I do care about the trees. Okay, so first with the parking, just because the concept plan was a little off,
Yeah.
right? So, and I would, Katie, I don't know if you have access to like Google Maps. I would love to see it actually, could we pull up Google Maps right now and show us where it is? Or like the county parcel map. I think it would be good for me just to have that image in my mind.
Sure, yeah, let me pull up the parcel viewer, that one's easier for me to
show.
quickly show.
Okay, sounds good, thank you. While you're getting to that, okay, as far as the concept plan goes with parking, I love the trailer parking. I know that there was some concern about parking, especially trailer and recreation parking extending onto Lambert or the state road. And I think that that's a really good and valid concern, so I like the trailer parking. It does concern me with the current concept plan that if you need 33 more parking stalls, is what Katie said. And I think that originally you also said in the staff plan that there was 87 rooms, and you just said there would be 77, right?
Yeah,
I had 82, but it looks like we're down to.
Yeah, 72 is originally 4 stories. Yeah, so I'll clarify for you, 72 as of today.
Okay, so 72, so not 30.
3-story.
So not, we're not missing 33 parking stalls, we're missing fewer, but I think that with your current concept plan, it'd be easy to just change the trailer parking in the back to make it vehicle parking, so you can slide those enough parking stalls.
Correct.
But I think it is important to the community and the residents that we keep trailer parking. Yeah, keep trailer parking off Lambert, obviously, and so including that in the concept plan and not getting rid of so many, because I think in the staff report, how many trailer parking stalls is in the concept plan that you put in the 12?
12, but it's hard to tell because again, this is very conceptual. And when we usually see a site plan, it's labeled and more detail on what the
Yeah,
sizes are
yeah,
and more information to come.
Yeah, that'll be, to go off of that, you have to account for handicap accessible
Yeah.
stalls, ADA, staff parking, things like that.
Yeah.
So 72 rooms should be able to have 82 parking stalls.
okay, perfect. Okay, good to know. So yeah, I think just keeping that in mind, and obviously you guys are probably conducting your own like market feasibility studies and stuff. You know the type of clientele you're gonna serve. So if you're projecting that like 50% of the clientele is gonna be bringing, like coming up to do recreation, make sure like the parking reflects that, and let us know, just so we can also be like, yeah, these guys are being really mindful about their parking, we appreciate that. On to Justin's economic study recommendations. In your presentation, you also mentioned that you would employ a local labor force, which I think is a great aspiration. I think that we, as well as Park City and Summit County, you'll see that Yeah, we are running into shortages of housing for our labor force. So like, it's a great aspiration to say, we're gonna employ people in your community. People in our community, I looked it up real fast, so on HUD's website, which they're the housing authority for the United States, right? So they come out with AMI limits, average median income limits for the whole United States, county by county. Let's see, and I was looking at the standards for Summit County. 80% of the average median income is considered low income. And for one person up here, that's $70,000. So might be a good idea in that economic study Justin's recommending to report either wages for your employees, so showing that they could actually survive in this area, or coming up with, because it's 9 acres, and I'm not sure what you guys are doing on the rest, but this site's only taken up 2 acres, committing to doing some affordable housing on it, so that staff does have somewhere to live. And then I think that I appreciate your rationale why you're using Best Western. Would you consider not franchising and doing a boutique? I think that I appreciate that Best Western lets you do your own thing. And obviously you guys are holding yourself to a higher standard, but there's other franchise owners that don't.
Totally understand. I think
Is there rationale behind franchising?
there is rationale to both. I'll say that, there's rationale to both, and again, nothing's in stone, this is all conceptual. Best Western's what we know, we've been experience with Best Western, but definitely looking at feedback and looking at other options for sure.
Yeah, and I mean, it's something we can hear from, I think we're gonna allow some folks to talk that are adjacent to the property tonight. And so if there is I don't know if a boutique hotel would be received more favorably in the area rather than a Best Western, even if it is a plus. Yeah, and then I just look forward to seeing more accurate concept plan.
I have another question, I apologize.
Yeah,
now,
okay.
So since you don't own the property, right?
Sure.
How did you come to pick that lot? It just seems like next to the 7-Eleven on Highway 248 would be a more feasible location for a Best Western
Sure.
in this valley. So why did you pick that lot over something off of 248?
Yeah, so just to clarify, we are not the land developer as of right now, right? We are a hotel proposing to come in on this piece of land,
Do
right?
you have a REPSI or anything with them? Do you have a purchase agreement?
Nothing yet.
Nothing.
Yep. So again, very conceptual.
So it's not set in stone, you could apply and go somewhere on 248.
That is correct. Nothing set in stone, all conceptual.
I will add for residents too, though. If we add commercial, our property we have a higher chance of our property taxes staying low and staying down. So I know it's distasteful. I'm just saying, I'm just being the devil's advocate, that if we add commercial, that we have a lower chance of having our property taxes increase.
Yeah, so most of the property or the sales taxes that are collected in Camas Valley, excuse me. Hey, excuse me.
Hey, guys, hold on. I know there's a ton of public comment, and I know it's miserable to sit through a concept plan and not get to voice your opinion. I do apologize. That's only to not waste everyone's time with a concept until we have tangible facts to argue. So I genuinely appreciate that you guys are all here, but I would love to get through this and allow the other folks who are adjacent to speak their minds now. And then we'll continue on with the rest of the community's comment throughout the process. And I'm excited for our future meetings, and I can't wait to solicit your guys' opinion on other things for those of you who stay.
You can also
Katie.
talk to us, like, our names are all on like the city website. You're more than welcome to reach out to us. I think we'd all be open to receive feedback, so that can be voiced in the meeting.
Anyway, just to add on what you said and to corroborate it, that yes, that's like, the main reason that we're considering commercial in Francis. We've had it zoned for commercial for 20 years, and the main reason is to capture sales tax revenue. Everybody that lives in Francis, we don't spend any money in Francis. That's a problem. And the people that come through Francis don't spend any money in Francis. There's nowhere to do that. And we all go out and spend our money in Camas, we spend it in Heber, we spend it in Park City or Salt Lake. And that's great, and that will probably continue to be the case for the most part. But we need to have another source of revenue. The rooftops aren't going to be sustainable for the city long term. Unless we increase taxes significantly, which the mayor doesn't want to do.
But commercial is coming to the city center. I mean, it is coming, it's just, we need to be patient.
Possibly, the city center doesn't have any approved plans at all.
But it's gonna come. I just think it comes down to responsible growth, right? Let's be responsible. And if Highway 248 is a better option for Best Western, I think, and even on our survey that we did, we had people say in our community that they were willing to pay more taxes until we could get the commercial base built up.
Yeah.
Scott, anything else?
Let's see. So I appreciate the sentiment and my fellow commissioners here. The thought though remains that, that this is within the permissible uses for the area, right? So I understand the sentiment, and especially this idea of responsible growth, but there is purview related to our board and what we're able to do here, and what ultimately the city's going to allow when it comes to this type of a process. I think what I heard at the beginning is that there isn't a question as to whether or not the property owner can build as long as it is a permissible use and with respect to the conditional use approved with conditions. So it seems like the focus of some of what we're discussing here is that maybe it's better somewhere else, when in reality, I don't even know if that's actually a question for this board, or at least for me.
But he admitted he didn't own the property.
Agreed.
So, I mean, and he said,
Nevertheless,
he
we're
just
here,
said there's
so.
nothing set in stone.
Great. Real fast.
So I think one thing to go back on, and I'm sorry, I can't remember your name.
Josh.
Josh, so are you all the owner of the property?
No, I'm representing the owner.
Representing the owner. Okay, so I think there's a lot of questions around the wetland, because if you go to the wetland map, there are two wetlands that cross this property. There's the southeastern wetland or southwestern wetland and the wetland in the center. Oh, sorry. Yeah. And it seems like there was an agreement back when this property was split with the Army Corps of Engineers to create the two properties up at the north, the two home properties, that one of the wetlands wouldn't be touched and that there was a fill permit provided for the wetland in the southwest corner. Is that accurate?
I'm not aware of the wetland delineation report, so I will have to look into that and get back to you.
Okay.
Can we make sure we have that?
Yeah, Scott, do you know?
I guess, yeah, there was lots of moving and changing with that. But the wetlands is kind of the way that they are right now is what the Corps has approved.
Right, and so my understanding is where the access is from the road, that is just south of the northern wetland, and there really can't be anything built north of that because that wetland can't be touched. But the southwestern wetland, probably where the lake is, there's a fill permit for that given by the Army Corps of Engineers.
Southwest. Well, I guess the question is when he went out and grabbed the property, you grab property away, water's gonna go.
Sure.
So it's not where he grubbed is not a wetland.
No,
Just because water came over,
Sure.
doesn't mean it's a wetland.
Sure, no, but I think if you go to the Utah map, they show a wetland there. And I think, looking at documents, that there was an agreement with the Army Corps of Engineers saying that one of the southwest corners could be filled, to be
Yeah,
built.
there was, they've taken this wetland and got it reduced from what it originally was.
Okay. Yeah, because I think that's what a lot of the question was coming from people in the neighborhood, because they were looking at their HOA plot and they could see a wetland that abruptly ended at this property line. And so I think there was this Army Corps of Engineer agreement saying how to handle these two wetlands, and that one could be filled and that the other was going to be protected. And so then that goes also to the affordable housing option. I don't think you can build on that northern part of the property because of those wetlands. I will
Well, it's
say
not
too-
zoned for housing either. That's the other main issue is we have to rezone it for residential.
And we're not seeking any zone change, we're not seeking any of that. I do want to point out too, with the wetland map that you see online, those are estimated general locations of wetlands. Army Corps of Engineer wetland delineation reports are always what is actually an approved or jurisdictional wetland. We do run into that quite a bit. Those wetland maps are made off of very, very high level, very out of date imagery. They'll put wetlands in the middle of fields that have been dry for 50 years, and they'll have a wetland that doesn't have a shape. So it is important to know that we always need to defer to the approved jurisdictional determination from the wetland delineation.
Understood. Is there any more questions for the developer from the commission?
What's the latest wetland study? What year was the last wetland study
Debbie
done?
Scott.
2021.
Okay.
We could request or recommend another wetland
We're
study.
good for 5 years.
5 years. It's almost expired. We could recommend it.
I think we've made the point clear. I think they need to come prepared to discuss that and probably have those comments and discussions with city council outside of our scope.
And like I said, when I was speaking, we are open to suggestions, we're open to these comments. If that's something, we'll take it into consideration. We appreciate the ability to hear these things. We're very high level now. When we get to preliminary site plan, we have to have answers for those. The whole idea here is to get the high level taken care of, make sure that we can get to what we need on the preliminary so that we're not wasting money in places where we don't need to, vice versa. So we do appreciate suggestions, all those comments, yes.
And one comment I haven't heard that I was hoping to is feedback on the architectural design. I think that could be helpful for them right now.
Okay, let's go. Ladies first.
I like the part that, or the Heber one, where the commercial was included on the site.
You can say it.
It's too tall.
Way too tall.
Way too tall.
I knew someone would say it.
We all know it's coming. I think it's important to point out, we started at 4 stories, we've come to 3 stories. Nothing is set as stone, so.
Yeah,
Just follow the scope, right? That's what we tend to do.
yeah, I understand. I think from what we've spelled out in our architectural stuff, that this meets the criteria laid out in the code. I like the farmhouse appeal. I like the potential for the development to match kitty corner so that as you enter our city and our commercial zone, it looks good. I like that it's not a metal building, so that's good. I think I'm not crazy, and I understand like architecturally why that breaks it up. I'm not crazy about outdoor patios. I again think that's gonna fall back on your noise and lights and all that sort of stuff. So I think containing that inside the hotel would be a benefit for you guys. And then, yeah, I mean, I think as far as like, it's a beautiful building, so that's my only take.
Too tall.
Anything else?
Yeah, I'll just mention, and I think, again, to reiterate what you said, I think that having that similar character entering the city, I think is beneficial. I am concerned about the crime side of things. Just the reality is that once it exists, then it's going to fall upon our local law enforcement ultimately and our elected officials to try to sort that out. And everybody just is gonna have to live with the result. We don't have a lot of law enforcement that stays here in this side of the county. And so I'm thoughtful of how that might work, particularly when it comes to noise issues. We don't have a lot of crime, fortunately, in this community, but noise issues is one thing that comes up. And you know, that is important to our community, but it isn't necessarily important enough to get a response from law enforcement if they're busy doing something more critical, right? So as the design comes, particularly with the outdoor space, the outdoor fireplace and all that, having ways to physically do everything that can be done to prevent that noise from drifting over towards the residences in either direction over there, to the south or to the west over there. I think would be important.
Probably when the pitchforks will come out, I would say too.
I was bummed, I heard there was gonna be signs.
Comments? Do you want me to, I'll go ahead and read the first one I
Yeah, that's what I was
have
gonna
one
do
written.
before I forget.
Yeah, I have one written comment from Rex Larson. He lives at 1009 Village Drive. I think it's appropriate to read his comment because he is in that adjoining neighborhood. I think anyone that's right there in that adjoining neighborhood or across the street on Lambert would be appropriate to hear from them at this meeting. So you said, to whom it may concern, I, Rex Larson, living at 1009 Village Drive in Francis, Utah, would like to comment regarding the possibility of a Best Western being constructed at the corner of Lambert and 32. First, if the rumors are true, and there has been no discussion of this in the Francis City Council meetings, and that no permits have been granted as of yet, I believe that the act of clearing the ground and leaving it in peace, and also the construction of a large sign, are both very brazen acts that should not be permitted and are unacceptable to the community. Leaving the ground the way it is currently could create safety hazards and will surely invite the growth of invasive plant species. Pushing forward quickly to remedy these issues also creates its own issues, in that the possibility of this hotel being built needs to be looked at in detail, and the surrounding community needs to be heard and listened to. The developer need not use their power and apparent disregard for the current citizens of Francis City to push the approval and permits of the construction through Francis City and its council. Second, when the process of possible approval does begin for the Best Western Hotel, I want the following to be known as a concern to me. 1, light pollution. There is a neighborhood that backs this property, and 24-hour lighting around the building will drastically change the current level of light pollution. This is a dual dark city where the residents enjoy the darkness of night. 2, sound pollution. Again, there's a neighborhood that backs this property, and 24-hour sound around the building will drastically change the current level of sound pollution. The people of the city enjoy the quietness of a rural city. 3, height issues. Looking at all other Best Western hotels, there is a common theme of the building being at least 3 to 4 stories in height. There is nothing currently in the city of Francis with this height, and it would stick out like a sore thumb. With the property and building backing a neighborhood, wetlands, and grazing fields, the idea of a hotel in this location to me is very non-symbiotic with the surrounding environment. I am sure other issues will come forward in the coming process, and I hope that these are addressed as well. Thank you for taking the time to read and consider my comments.
If I'm not mistaken, there's, the developers are good to sit down. It's more directed at us for any public comment.
Sure, yeah, unless you have any questions.
Is there anything else you guys would like to add?
I think you answered the ones that I had already, so thank you.
All right, gentlemen, appreciate it. Can I get a raise of hands really quick on anybody who's here and would like to speak regarding Village Lane or to the south of Lambert Lane? Is there anyone in that bucket? Hold them up for me. I'm just trying to get a count so we can set a reasonable time limit. Do you guys think
2 minutes.
2 minutes each?
We usually do.
Is that everybody good? All right. When you approach, make sure the green mic is on. It should already be on. Please state your name and your address. And yes, go for it. Yeah, get to it.
First of all, I want to say I appreciate this opportunity and how open everyone has been about this. I live in the Village Drive neighborhood, in a hotel. Oh, I'm so sorry. Rachel Sutherland, 1162 Village Drive. We have at least 5 houses in that neighborhood with little children, and it's already been expressed. I understand that, and you guys see the issues. My kids can play outside right now without me having to worry about it. I homeschool, they're home almost all day. That there would make it so that I would fear for them being outside because of the transient nature of people coming and going. And I have a concern about the fact that we're trying to build something that is places where we can spend money in our own community. No one here is going to pay for a hotel. We live here. So maybe what about shopping center? What about other opportunities? As a city council, I wonder if there is the opportunity for making another property more attractive. Across the street even, where there are no houses behind this big building. It just seems to be a silly location for a hotel. You guys know that. And I got through everything really fast. Again, it's too tall. The building, why is it so close up to the neighborhood and not up against the road? There are so many reasons why I think there's a better spot for this, even in Francis. It doesn't even have to go to Camas. Somewhere else across the street, I don't even know. But thank you for the opportunity, and we'll continue to discuss.
Yes, thank you.
Has it crossed the street? been considered for the property?
It's not in terms of city limits, it's part of something.
Okay.
I'm Justin Jones, I live at 1185 Village Drive, so just across the street from Ray, who just spoke. I understand that the valley's growing, and I don't think that a hotel is a bad thing for here. However, the location I don't agree with. I think this thing belongs on 248, or even like Ray said, across the street. It's in people's neighborhood, you know? You can literally look outside your window if you're on the second, third store, and you're staring down at our houses. And I don't think it belongs there. But it is growing, the valley's growing, I get it. The design to build, I think it looks great, actually. I mean, it would look good in the city, but it's not the right location for it.
Thank you. Don't be shy. You can line up if you want. We're not gonna mind.
Brian, it's okay. 102 Village Drive. Yeah, so as you can imagine, there was quite the stir in the community when everybody saw the sign go up. In fact, I think the stir did start for me and a couple others prior to that when they started tearing up the ground and just kind of left it with no idea what's going on. It's been said ad nauseum, I think, that, you know, privacy is a big concern, light pollution is a big concern, noise, transient nature. I don't know that I have a lot to add to all of that, other than it's another voice echoing that.
Thanks. And then I want to remind everyone, it's okay to say the same thing and echo the same things. Auntie's taking notes, she's documenting who spoke and the names, and that also gets passed along. So please don't feel bad if you want to echo the same sentiment. Don't be shy. Go ahead.
Okay, I'm Jeff Faulkner. I live at 915 Village Drive, so just around the corner. So this would be directly out in the back. I actually agree with Justin. I think it's a good looking property, but it belongs in city center where things are to grow, not out in the middle of the farmer's field. I echo everyone else's concerns. My biggest is about traffic. That road is an absolute nightmare. I got kids we take to school, kids come home from school. There's been probably 3 or 4 accidents there in the last few years, pretty bad ones. It's because people are trying to get up and out of there. And I think putting 80 or 72 rooms and how many employees that is, having 100 extra people coming in and out of that on top of everything that's already been approved down Lambert, which is, I don't know if you know off the top of their head, but it's a lot. So that traffic it's just unacceptable. It's unsafe. I know folks who live on Lambert proper, we live tucked back in, but getting in and out and the road's already too narrow. So that's my sentiment, along with what everyone else said.
Thank you so much.
Casey and Holly Perez, 930, holy cow. 939 Village Drive. Get up here in front of the audience, there you go. Concern is that Jeff kind of hit it pretty hard, is I work in a commercial building across the street at White Knight Fluid Handling. And it's just horrible trying to make a left-hand turn out there in the evening. That road is just, it's changed. It's not 7, 8 years ago, it's bad. And then my only other comment was, are we doing anything with the pile of dirt that's there? It's so ugly. So that's all I have to say.
Just want to add a couple of comments.
Can you add your name real
Holly,
fast?
I'm Holly for 939 Village Drive.
Thank you.
A lot of the same concerns that everybody has, mother, children, luckily my child's not too young, but crime in the area. I actually have horses right there that would be right across the field, and I know Jeff does as well. Who knows what's gonna happen, you know, the livestock, we have goats, we have chicken, you know. I'm concerned about my livestock, children. I drive down my road, I see children playing. The crime is huge. Parking, trailer parking, car parking. I don't want cars parking, trailers parking down into our neighborhood. That's the biggest thing, safety for me, the crime, and then just having a nice, quiet community is also a concern for me as well. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Megan Holbrook, 115 Lambert Lane. I haven't heard anything to protect the privacy on Lambert Lane for the homes that are facing this proposed hotel. I have 4 girls and 1 boy. Our windows do face out toward that direction. Haven't heard anything about what we can do to mitigate and have privacy for that. Agreed, it's a weird place to have a hotel. It backs right up to our house. A lot of livestock there. My daughter was hit by a truck, like I mentioned in the last meeting, right in this proposed location because of the traffic. So I'd like to hear more about that as it progresses.
Can I just ask you really quickly so that I make sure that I understand as this moves forward?
Yeah.
So my understanding is it's gonna sit in the middle. There's gonna be commercial development along the front. It's gonna be facing out towards SR 32. So are you concerned about the south side, if there's windows on the south side of the hotel facing?
Right, so
I don't wanna put you on the spot and make you point out where you live, but.
no. Perhaps in this general.
In that general area.
Perhaps.
So that
Right around there.
corner is the issue for you, I see. Okay.
Right, and the neighbors that reside around here as well. And there's 2 access points from what the proposed
Yeah.
thing looks like.
I have it in here. I just want to make sure I understood, because when you were initially talking, I was like, I want to make sure going forward that that's in the considerations.
Right, yeah, that's
Because
correct.
in my mind, and this is probably just me because I'm not the brightest, I was literally thinking along the back of the property to the west, so I see. what you're
Right,
saying
which should
about-
also have the consideration,
Yeah.
but
I see
along
what you're
the
saying.
Lambert Lane front side.
Got it.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
My name's Rex Larson. I was the one that wrote that letter. 1009 Village Drive. The one thing I wanted to add on the noise is, like Casey said, he works over at White Knight. This valley, the sound goes everywhere. They had an issue with some type of machinery there. I was ready to go over, like, test it and send it all in because you couldn't even open your windows at night because it was so loud. That's a good distance away from me. I understand that's more industrial than it is commercial, but I just want to add that it's, I mean, if there's going to be noise things there, it's going to have to be something that can block it very well because it travels through this whole valley. The semi could turn left over there, and if they trailer brake, the whole, most of this valley's going to hear it. So that would be all I'd like to add to that.
Thank you.
My name's Jamie Larson. I also live at 1009 Village Drive. I wanted to touch on kind of what Holly was talking about as far as the livestock that backs all of that property. That's usually the next thing to go is people start complaining about horses, the smell, the flies, like this is where we live. I also want to say that when we talk in terms of spending money in this town, I moved up here 8 years ago from the city, getting out of the city. I choose to spend my money in other cities, specifically not this city, it's where I live.
Hello, Ben Colbert, live at 157 Lambert, and like has been mentioned by several people, we're gonna have a hotel that's way too big, backing up to residential properties. They're gonna have air conditioners and boilers going 24/7. We're gonna have noise problems. We like to sleep with our windows open. We don't have air conditioning, shocker. It gets cold up here at night. We enjoy that. We enjoy our quiet, dark places. We have way too much traffic on our street already. Like Jeff was saying, I mean, they're gonna have 2 entrance points for that property on Lambert Lane. And we already have people treating our street like it's a drag strip, going 60 miles an hour. They come off of the highway and pin it, fly down our street, and we don't have any law enforcement to do anything about this, right? We have Summit County Sheriff, who I've called out to come our street multiple occasions, and what they tell me is that they only get 3 shifts a week out here. 3 shifts is what they get in Francis. So we have no law enforcement. We're gonna have transient people coming in and out. Like Ray said, we want our kids to be able to play outside. It's already bad enough to have our 5 kids outside because we got people speeding on our street and we have no law enforcement, all right. The city of Francis wants the highest quality of life, a rural atmosphere through essential infrastructure. There is no quality of life in a rural atmosphere with a 3-story hotel looking down in people's backyards. It looks right down in Jeff's backyard. It looks down in Julie's backyard. She's not here. It looks down in our front yard. it's like not at all acceptable for that location. So that's what I have to say.
Can we put bumps on Lambert Lane?
The city's discouraged against speed bumps for the winter.
Go ahead, ma'am.
Deb Anderson, I actually live on Highway 35 here, and just, I amen to what everybody else has said. I live right across the street from that beautiful storage unit. I get lights all night long. My house is lit up, literally lit up at night. I have the noise, 4:30 in the morning, up and down. I'm sorry I missed the first part, I thought it started at 7. But I just think, I mean, what did everybody move here for? To be in a rural area? I grew up here. I hate to see these changes, and a hotel is not a rural area. And I just think it's a really bad idea. It takes away from our community. Put it on 248.
Dean Prescott, I'm Deborah's neighbor. We live by the Great Wall of Francis right there. Your sound barrier wall, just shoot the sound right back to our house. We've had to get blackout curtains. I don't know what the lighting situation would be for a hotel, but the storage unit is very bright, and they say they're on the lowest lumens that they got, but it's very bright. The traffic is, the street's not made for it. People want to turn in there, and you got a 2-lane highway, and you're gonna have the same thing out there, basically. The hotel would look nice on 248. It'd look fantastic. That's what I'm here. So I feel for you people if it goes out there. The last problem out there, we had pumper trucks at 3:30 in the morning, pumping concrete. I'd like to know if there was a fine for those guys. I called the mayor, and they were there at 5 o'clock the next morning, so.
We're gonna talk about that.
Stick around.
Perfect. That's what I'm here
Next
for.
item up.
That's on tonight's agenda.
Anyone else in the immediate vicinity of this project site, from this project site?
Okay, I genuinely want to thank everyone for coming and sharing your opinions. I know emotions are on the high. I get it. So thank you for taking time out of your day to come here. I encourage you all, you're welcome to stick around for the next sessions, but I also know that most of you probably, like me, have a little kid at home and bedtime and school tomorrow and work and all those things. So we'll give it just a couple minutes for anybody who wants to leave, so that way we can still have enough audio for the folks online. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Get that to me.
Don, you're not hearing enough.
All right, thanks, everybody. All right, next item on the list is agenda number 2. Katie, would you like to do your staff report on the noise and sound disturbance code text amendment?
Okay, well,
Let's rock and roll.
Mr. Prescott gave a fantastic introduction to this item, and that is exactly where it came from, because that was the situation that triggered this happening. So we did have a contractor working on a construction site at 4:30 in the morning, from what I heard,
Nice.
doing concrete. I have been out to this site previously, it's been a year, but I was out there at 6 in the morning with the noise meter monitoring. So they should know better, but a year later, they're doing it again. And
I've got to triple the time.
hold on. We're not gonna wait, so.
Let's let her finish. Speed.
So then a year later, they're out there again, 4:30 in the morning, we hear feedback from neighbors that that happened again. We call and let them know that is absolutely not acceptable. And they say that will not happen again. The next morning, happens again. So we realized that we need to have some stiffer penalties in our code for this kind of thing. Looking at the construction waste ordinance, we took some keys from that and tried to mirror that ordinance so that we have similar penalties. That's where this came from. So, let me open that staff report and make sure I didn't miss anything. Okay. So the mayor directed me to, and the city attorney, to start drafting the ordinance. This came from both me and the city attorney. We worked on it together. Your options here are to make any changes if needed, as always, and then you can have a positive recommendation, negative recommendation, or table it if we need more time. This is a code amendment, so it's a legislative item, and it is open for public hearing. We did notice the public hearing in accordance with state and local law. Let's look at the amendment itself. It adds several steps in the process of enforcement. So the whole code basically stays the same until you get to this enforcement side. So all the levels and decibels, measuring, all of that stays the same. But we do add some steps for enforcement. So first of all, if we become aware of a violation, then first we have a warning. So they let the code enforcement officer know, which happens to be me right now, and determines that there is a violation. I go out and that's where I get the decibel meter, and I determine whether or not there's a violation. So sometimes I have to go out there early in the morning because that's just part of the job. And yeah, just how it is. Hopefully we can avoid that, but.
Maybe some more tax-based revenue.
Yeah, right, we can actually have code enforcement. Anyway, verbal or written warning shall be given to the responsible party to make them aware of this chapter. So then I call them, just like I did the last time, and say, hey, we have a problem. I've heard from neighbors that we have a problem. The next morning, I will be out there, and I will measure it. And if there is a violation, this is what we're proposing, that they, even within one calendar year, it doesn't have to be the next morning, it could be within one calendar year, we have a violation, and then they're getting a fine, and that's $500. This doesn't necessarily have to be a construction site, so keep that in mind. It could be a neighbor. So maybe let's make sure it's appropriate for everybody, keep that in consideration, but we have had to enforce the noise issues more with construction than anything else. So $500 for the first violation, and then they also get a hand-delivered, mailed, or emailed letter about it. So something written, not necessarily just a verbal one that can be on the warning. After that, if the $500 fine isn't enough to stop them, then there's a subsequent violation. Then we have a $1,000 fine, also accompanied by a written letter. And that's any subsequent. So third, fourth, fifth, this is making economic sense for you to keep pouring concrete at 4:30 in the morning, then you're gonna have a $1,000 fine. And then, because we have had a lot of problems with construction-related violations, if I determine that there's a subsequent violation, so this is after the first one, after the warning and the first violation, within a calendar year, then we can issue a stop work order, and it will require them to stop work for a minimum of 7 days, calendar days. And that is, for anyone that is involved in construction, that's a significant delay for a lot of people. So we do have a section that allows for some exemptions, but there is a process. This is also an addition here. There would be a pretty strict process on how this works. They have to request it at least to the city council at least 15 days in advance. So they can't just be like, hey, tomorrow I might be pouring concrete. No, they have to be at least 15 days. They have to tell us their name, the entity, all the information of who they are and why they want that exemption. The Francis City Council may, in their sole discretion, choose to approve or deny the request for exemption. Any conditions outlined and agreed upon shall be obeyed by the applicant, and failure to do so will cause the exemption to be revoked. Okay, that's it for the amendment, that's it for me. Remember, this is a public hearing, and happy to answer questions.
Okay, since it's a public hearing, I'll open up for public comment. Same rules apply, 2 minutes. Please state your name and address. Would anybody like to comment publicly?
If I have a question, do you have to come up?
Jump on up. Sorry,
Okay.
it's a record thing. Antini gets mad at me.
I'm Lori Snegative, 1482 East Rockview Court. So our property is right by the Stewart Ranches. And I was just wondering if there was a set time when they can start and finish?
Yes,
ma'am.
What is that time?
So here is what our code says. It says, this is the part that we're not changing or not proposing to change. It says a sound measuring 70 decibels or more between the hours of 7 a.m. and 10 p.m. Monday through Saturday, or between the hours of 9 a.m. and 10 p.m. on Sunday is prohibited. So that's the higher limit. That's just normal daytime noise that you're allowed to do. And then at night, between the hours of 10 p.m. and 7 a.m. Monday through Saturday, or between the hours of 10 p.m. Saturday and 9 a.m. on Sunday. So here we have some adjustments for the weekend. This is when it's supposed to be more quiet. A sound measuring 55 decibels or more between the hours, those nighttime hours. So previously, like a year ago, when I went out and measured sound at this Premier storage site and had the concrete trucks coming in and out, they did exceed the 55 decibels. But we also had trucks on the highway that were exceeding that 55 decibels. Semis that were coming up and down would also exceed that level. There's really not much we can do about that. I wish we could, but that just gives you an idea of what that level sounds like.
Do you have any follow-up questions?
Yes. The noise actually doesn't really bother me. Sometimes I think they are starting before 7. And they are out there, I don't know what they're doing in the pitch black at night, but they are out there sometimes until 10 o'clock, which I just think is too interesting at best. But then the other question I have is, during the construction, I've had like 5 or 6 flat tires. And I mean, it's all construction related. I go to Rusted Development, and then I noticed that they started using a street sweeper. Are they required to do that? Because I think they should be. I've seen it out there. I didn't know if that was just something that Ivory Homes was doing or if that you guys were asking them to do.
We do require them to keep the streets clean and free of debris. I have had code enforcement on other construction sites where they weren't doing that, and so that is important to us, that they keep them free of debris. If you are noticing some waste, we do have a pretty strict construction waste code that's similar to this noise code. So you can file a complaint on our website. You can find a form on there and file a complaint and send it to me, and then I'll look into it.
And then I have one other question, but I don't know if it's related or not, but somebody said in passing when you were reading some of the guidelines for Francis City that the lots had to be a ½ acre. Did I hear that right?
It depends on the zone.
So she was referring to zoning as an example. So
Because I looked at the city plat for the code for the current, it was dated 2024, 2029 plan, I guess, for the city. And that whole area where Stewart Ranch is shown as agricultural.
So I welcome you to come to the office anytime and talk with me. I'm not sure it's the best time right now, but I will answer your question quickly. There are many different zones in the city, and there's some different overlays. In Stewart Ranches, that is a conservation subdivision. So the overall density is 1 lot per acre, but those are clustered, so they have open space, and that is part of the overall density. That's the type of subdivision it is. It's a conservation subdivision, so it's allowed there.
Allows them to have smaller lots, together, based around stuff.
Yeah.
Rather than just having.
Yeah, I know, everything's really pulled in tight.
Yes.
It seems just odd to me. Well, it doesn't feel.
Okay, please come and talk to me. There are some really good reasons why we do that in the city.
The ½ acre, and I just wanted to know
No, I appreciate it, yeah. I totally can see where that confusion is. Is there any other public comment?
Yeah, I would say a $500 fine for a construction outfit, that's a bucket of concrete.
Yeah.
That's nothing.
Yeah, I think you're gonna hear some comment about this, so.
But we do have to keep in mind that it's applied, unless we rewrite it, which we could do.
That's about what I was about to
It could
get
be a
at.
neighbor violation, anyway, it's hard to consider everything for the entire city.
Yeah, I think you're about to hear some topics on that, but I do understand your point, like, these guys might be.
Anything else though?
No, but that's not a deterrent for
Your
people.
time.
Yeah, it's not a deterrent for those people.
Understood.
Thank you.
Thank you. Does anybody else have anything?
I have
Going
a
once,
question.
going twice, closing public comments. Done.
All right. Can you, I just read through the code really quick, and I understand the city attorney's not present here today, Katie, but can you help me understand what the enforcement mechanism is for this? Is this criminal in nature? I don't see any reference to the severity for it as a violation, and I also don't see any like civil apparatus that allows us to like administratively sue somebody to get this money. How are we enforcing this? Just say.
So it would be, there's another part of our code that goes along with this and enforcement, and it lays out kind of a procedure for how we receive those funds.
So there's
So,
separately, there's a different
Lien the
procedure.
property, there are avenues that we can take.
So it's just to be clear though, it's civil in nature. This isn't criminal that we're talking about here.
I will check with the attorney on that,
Okay.
I'm not sure.
Just
But
I found a couple other references in our ordinances that are referencing Class B misdemeanors for certain
Right,
offenses.
there
They're
are
outside
some.
of this. And so,
Okay,
just something to consider, because there are criminal noise violations that the sheriff's office could apply with respect to state law and stuff like that. So,
okay,
just wanted to understand.
yeah, no, that's a really good question, I will check into that, thank you.
Take her away.
Based off of his comment, I think it should be segregated between residential and commercial. And then the only other question I had was the contract-related violations enforced within a year. It says 1 calendar year, but then they could, like, how many are we allowing within that calendar year? I think we need to spell out that violation time frame. Like, what if they had a rolling 15 calendar day exemption? You know, like, we need to be more specific as to what we're willing to allow with that.
Yeah, I think because it's at the discretion of the city council, it really just depends on the project and what the council feels like is.
And how many
appropriate.
extensions we're willing to allow during that construction period.
Yeah, we can look at that.
Sounds like our elected officials wanted to maintain control and not spell it out, so that they had the ability to approve or deny in either direction.
I don't think any elected officials have actually seen this yet.
Oh, never
so
mind.
Okay.
This comes from, this is from the attorney, this section was
Oh, got it.
100% written by our city attorney or copy from another municipality likely, so.
Otherwise, I like it. I think it's great.
Okay.
Yeah, I would like to look for language that delineates between commercial and residential, just because, and I kind of have the opposite effect, so.
I guess, what do you mean by commercial and residential?
So here's my thing, like, for a barking dog, I realize I would have to do the decibels, but for a barking dog, like, it just seems to go up really fast, whereas I understand we want stiff penalties for pumping concrete intentionally at 3 a.m.
Right.
But we also need to remember, like, everybody has that day where they forgot to put their dog back in the house and they bark all day. So I'm just trying to wondering, like,
Specific.
yeah, I'm wondering, is there a way to delineate between activities? And I don't have the answer to this. It's more,
If they have a building permit in the city, then that would be one way to identify construction noise versus residential.
and are there examples?
Yeah, I can offer something with this, and it's again, what we were talking about before, it's separating criminal and civil, right?
Got it.
So like traditionally, you would see criminal for, it's like a police response for the barking dog, because it's happening right now. And that would be a ticket, an infraction, a class C misdemeanor, you go to court,
Got
you're getting court, all that, right? That's the barking dog. But the city has a lot of tools to use with respect to people, entities who have business licenses or under construction. And that's where you can get really creative when it comes to administrative codes to ensure that you're gonna get compliance in a way that would get their attention, if that's what we're trying to accomplish, right?
Exactly, so it's like in our construction waste code, we also have the stop work order, which is one tool, and we can hold back a conditional, or not a conditional, but a certificate of occupancy. Thank you, Scott, I'm stuck on the CUPs right now. Certificate of occupancy if we had to.
Right, that would be my only feedback. I don't, to Scott's point, I'm no professional in Utah criminal code. I'm familiar with some other codes, but not that one, so.
I would wonder on the 15-day requirement that the attorney wrote up, and if I'm not mistaken, doesn't the city council meet monthly?
Right, so that 15 days is minimum.
Yeah, so if
So
somebody
it
did
could be
do it-
longer. If they just had a meeting and you put in your request, then it's gonna be another month until they look at that.
So they could put it in 15 days in advance,
If you have a
but
meeting.
that doesn't mean that they're gonna get an approval, it'll just occur the next time there's an opportunity, which is when council meets, right?
Should we just phrase it? I mean, I'm not trying to make this difficult, but should we just phrase it that way?
Sure, you can, or at the, well, here's the thing, I guess we could say, okay, I have three thoughts, 15 days in advance, or at the next regularly scheduled city council meeting, whichever is greater. Because I don't want someone coming in the day before a council meeting and saying, hey, I want to file an exemption. No, it's
Agreed.
not 15
I think if the
days.
code just said all requests for exemption shall be made at least 15 days in advance of the next regularly scheduled council meeting,
Okay,
then you would always be fine, because then if there was a month that they took off,
yeah.
you would be covered.
I like it. Okay, I'm done. Rich?
So in 3, I think we should add for each subsequent violation after shall be assessed.
Okay.
So it's not, I mean, I think the intent's clear, but if I were violating this, I would argue against anything more than $1,000 fee for all of my violations.
Okay,
And then going to the comment, I think in 4, you should add a monetary fee in connection with the stop work order. We could add a $10,000 fine.
well, I think my intention was that it would be hand in hand with that, they'd get both. But maybe we need to make that more clear. So it's really very plain, and we can't loophole it, right?
Yeah.
I think that that's the delineation that Kim and Justin mentioned. Like, we already have it, right? We've got that construction-related violations already built in. So I think, I agree, make like a $2,000 construction-related violation fine or whatever on number 4 for construction-related violations. And I think 7 days is a vacation. I think it should be a stop work order for 30 days. If it's, because they already get like a warning. They already know they're not supposed to do this. And I think we should increase it too from 1 calendar year for the construction-related issues to 2 calendar years. Because a lot of construction can take quite some time. And so, like, they should not, like, they've already made a mistake, they've got a warning, they shouldn't do it again until that project is complete.
2 calendar years or until project completion for construction projects.
Yeah, I just want to be careful that we don't have a pebble turn into a tsunami here. I think we all want to see that our code is followed and not just disobeyed for the sake of profit. I think all of us would not want that, but at the same time, we also don't want to go so over the top. I'm not sure I would get behind a 30-day stop. Because now you're impacting a ton of things, right? Like, 7 days, I think, in a construction operation is pretty significant, but again, that's just my recommendation.
Well, I agree. I think maybe we could do like 15 though. I mean, they could just literally go on vacation and then literally, like, that's what they could do. So what if we did like 15 days?
Well, I just think there's livelihoods attached to that, right? Like, so you're on a construction schedule and now all of a sudden you're gonna bump all these other subcontractors back because your roofer went and made noise. Like, I just think that's getting a little bit far out there. Just my
Maybe
opinion.
they'll follow the rules.
Well,
I agree, but you have a general contractor, you have all the subcontractors, so you have one subcontractor who screws up. And now you're gonna snowball everybody
And
else.
I work construction, and when your subcontractor's going there, explain the situation. This is when you start.
Sure. I just wanna be careful that we're not making such a wave that we wash everything out.
So
That's my only thought.
My husband's in construction as well. And I agree, like, I don't wanna make a tsunami out of this, but you should have a good GC who knows the rules. If they've been slapped on the hand once for a bad sub, they make it clear to all the rest of the subs. They're in charge of the site, they're gonna own those consequences. So yeah, 30 days might be a bit much. I proposed it as a bit much. I wanted some discussion. I'm fine with like 14 or 15 calendar days, but I think that 7 is a vacation.
I would ask if, when we look at this again, that the city attorney review, that this is not a problem that's unique to our community. I'm sure that this has been litigated civilly with other jurisdictions. And, you know, what Justin's talking about is this proportionality concern, and I hate to see our city get involved in litigation due to the losses for a construction company because our ordinance is found to be, whether it's not constitutional or otherwise not in compliance with standards, and then we end up footing the bill for that.
Yeah, just so you know the process. So planning commission will work on a code. Let's talk about the RV campground code. We worked on that. We worked on it for a long time before it goes to the council, before we have an ordinance. I send it over to our attorney to make sure that he is good with it before it gets finally approved. So there is a process there. But yeah, I think that is a good idea, and I will talk to him about that before we implement some of these changes. It sounds like we're heading to table this, so we'll try to get these ideas worked into the next version. That sounds good.
Need a motion?
Motion to table?
Second.
Vote, Scott?
Aye.
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 It's been tabled. Sounds like we need more talk. Moving along on the old agenda for the evening. Thank you, folks. Thank you for your comments, really. Let's see, nuisance abatement is up next.
Yes. All right. So. Nuisance abatement. I had a talk with the city council a couple months ago about some nuisance issues, complaints we've had in the city. And we pointed out to the council, the city attorney and I did, that there's a conflict in our code. There's an issue with 2 of our different sections of code. So, and actually there's even a third one that's tied into. So, one section says that it's a public nuisance and unlawful to store junk and rubbish on public or private property. Well, a different section allows the storage of these materials if they are screened from public streets and adjoining property or stored in an enclosed building. So, one says you can't have them at all, one says it's okay if they're screened or stored inside. There's another section that makes an exception to the prohibition of the storage of junk for areas that are zoned for this use. So it's like, you can have junk, but only in certain areas. But then there's another part of the code that says you can't have it at all anywhere in the city, that we don't allow any junkyard or area where you can store old automobiles or wrecked automobiles that are abandoned. So I am very, very open to your feedback on this one. This was just my first attempt to try to get rid of some of these conflicts, but I would appreciate everybody, working on this and getting it to a place. We might take several times to get it to where we think it should be. The nuisance code is the one that I do enforce the most in the city, and so I want it to be really good. And the council also gave direction that they want it to be reasonable. They don't want to have so many regulations that you can't have any kind of junk. What we define as junk in the code.
Some junk, but reasonable junk.
Somebody's It's someone else's treasure, so.
I don't know, but is this about you?
No doubt about it. I'll get to that.
All right.
What do we got?
So let's just look at this is like my first attempt to try to get rid of the conflicts. But the council did set instruction that they don't want to be they don't want to be too harsh. And just so everybody here knows, the city, I'm the code enforcement officer. I don't go out driving around looking for problems. I honestly have no time for that. So, because we're a small city and we have a small staff.
So what you're saying is we don't have the tax dollars to support that?
That might have something to do with it. But anyway, what happens if someone complains is that I do go out and look at the problem and then I start enforcement actions. But we're not out driving around looking for problems. If there's a problem that a neighbor has and they let us know about it, then we'll look at it. So our general policy right now is if it's not a problem for someone else, then it's not a problem for us. But that's how we handle code enforcement, in case anyone's wondering. Because I'm sure everyone's thinking, I know of somebody that has some issues here. And if that's a problem for you, let me know and we'll look at it.
Okay, let's go over changes.
So here's the changes. Again, this one is a public hearing as well. It's very similar to the last amendment in structure, like how this is handled. So changing the definition of junk to include wrecked or non-operational, unlicensed or abandoned vehicles. Also taking this out, automobiles, because we feel like this better explains what that could be. And then adding equipment to that list of what junk could be, because if there is old equipment, that can also be problematic for neighbors. And then in the unlawful accumulation section, so that's the definition of junk. This is what we would potentially be looking at as unlawful. It shall be deemed a public nuisance and unlawful to deposit, accumulate, store, keep, abandon, or to permit the accumulation and storage, keeping, or abandonment of junk, rubbish, or debris in an open area or yard on private or public property within the city. All such materials must be screened from public streets and adjacent property or stored within an enclosed building. So we're taking out, you can't have it at all, and we're saying, okay, but it has to be screened. Your neighbors can't be seeing it. That is the change, is just making that the rule. And not having two rules, that's the rule. And then we're taking out the thing about specifically zone for, because there's nowhere in the city that's zoned for a junkyard. And then the section that was conflicting, where it said you have to screen it, we'll take out that part since it's included above, and then we still have some good things in this section that we'll keep, that, trash has to be screened from the public or adjoining residential area by fencing or landscape methods, and placed in a rear area of the main building if possible. No hazardous materials, chemicals, or oil solvents shall be stored in areas that do not meet health department regulations or are accessible to the public. That will all stay, but just taking out the conflicting areas. So that's it for me.
Okay, this is open for public comment. Same rules apply. Name, address, 2-minute timer. Is there anybody who would like to comment?
I will.
Let's do it.
I'm on it.
I got my timer.
Okay. My name's Steve Fitzgerald, 338 West Hilltop Road. I have something to tell you guys. Francis doesn't enforce those. I'm sorry to tell you that, but that's the way it is.
Okay.
So, we're talking about junkyard. My property right next to me. Now, as a normal rule, I'm good with, you your ground, you can kind of do what you want with it, to a point. To a point when it starts affecting me, I'm not that way.
That's fair.
So to start with, what kind of started all this is he dumped dirt over the hill. He destroyed my fence. I'm not a subdivider, I'm on a private, I like to run livestock there. That's what we've always done. I can't put anything there because the fence is gone. Now, he had cars down over the hill we own some springs down there. They were for me to use to spring junk cars, but who knows what's running out of them. I had to hire an attorney to get them moved. And that's probably not so much for me as people who drink the water out of ditches, because that's where it was going. I was sent sergeant's attorney, and I'm not aware of what Katie's telling me. I would like for you people to review these things. I only have one copy, and I don't know.
That's okay.
You won't have to, I guess, make a decision tonight. I don't.
Well, so see, normally we wouldn't investigate specific issues. That would be done through Katie. So you could stop by the office. I'm sure she's gonna let me.
I went through this with Katie 100 times. I choose not to deal with Katie.
Okay.
I'm gonna go somewhere else.
Well, and that's okay. Like, I mean, I think the next logical step, Katie, would be the mayor, right?
Yes, that would be great.
So that's what I would encourage you to do. So let's
Well,
talk.
this is an ongoing thing.
No, and I understand that, but that's
And
not.
I've talked to Jeremy about it.
That's kind of.
That's the thing.
I want you to keep these because it's outside my purview, but I want you to bring those for Jeremy because that's the next step. So what I'd like to talk is there parts of this nuisance amendment that you feel like need to be included to address some of the concerns you've encountered as a victim?
I don't know how many junk cars, there's quite a few cars, and if you put them back a little ways away from me, I've never said a word. Then he built a shed, he put the roof comes right over my fence and water runs off. And Katie and Loftus agreed that the fence was the line. I have a survey. I haven't seen a survey from either one of these two.
Okay.
And that's how they set it, they give a building permit that way and everything. So I know that's not what we're here for, but I'd like to see these codes strengthened and enforced.
Do you have suggestions relevant to the code based off of Katie's comments, sir?
Well, yeah, they tell me that the city center, there's no setback. So that's gonna run the roof out over the fence. I have 3 sheep camps parked there. It runs over the roof and down on my camp. Now, I mean, I guess you can argue about guns, but I can stay in any one of them camps, stay alive when you guys are freezing to death. So the camps are gonna stay there. I have 2 old trucks that should go. I have them sold. I didn't know where the title was, and I couldn't sell them. Now I find the title, and if I get a chance, I'll sell them. Or I may even move them. But I've got 17 acres there, in my family. And he makes it so we can't use it. And I'm not gonna be run out, so I'd like the code to be enforced.
Okay, well, I think this council has heard your comments and I wanted to allow you to finish so that we had that opportunity for you to be heard. My suggestion is absolutely you need to book a meeting with the mayor to escalate because that's who Katie reports to and I can't get you much higher than the mayor.
I think also this might be a civil issue.
Well, that's bullshit, because that's what the town told me. I've had attorneys review this. It's a code enforcement issue. That's what it is.
So let's stay, I just want to stay on track. I appreciate your comments. I do encourage you to talk to the mayor. If there's no direct suggestion of this, I think we'll move to the next person.
Yeah, that's fine.
So, but I do.
I appreciate you guys taking the time.
You're welcome, sir. Is there anybody else who'd like to speak? Going once, going twice, public comments closed. That was fortuitous. Oh, I'm lucky my neighbors are responsible. Okay, do you want to go first? I feel like you're feeling bad.
Actually, sure. Katie, I think that this code looks great. I think you did a great job, and I think you do a great job. Under, let's see, trailers, I think trailers is listed in there. I think maybe just some clarifying text of the condition of the trailers. Other than that, I have no.
Okay, so there's this semi-con here. I don't love the structure of this sentence, but I didn't really want to tackle the whole thing. But there's a semicolon here, and then it says inoperable, abandoned, demolished, or dismantled machinery, trailers, and other goods and equipment in such condition. So I think that the trailers are included in that, but I agree that it's not the best.
Can I make a suggestion?
Sounds good.
If you just move trailers to behind vehicles, so it says, because they're kind of
Yeah.
similar.
Okay.
Wrecked or non-operational, unlicensed or abandoned vehicles or trailers.
Yeah, we can do that.
And it kind of, that's kind of the same.
Put them together.
Okay,
That's my only one.
like it.
You're up, buddy.
Other than those comments, I got nothing.
I like it as is.
I guess one question I've got, do all trailers have to be licensed? Because it says unlicensed or abandoned vehicles. So if it's an unlicensed trailer, is that gonna be a problem and it doesn't require a license?
If you're driving a trailer on the road, pulling trailers, it has to be licensed.
How about just wrecked or non-operational trailers?
Starting to get into the gray area.
I think that's why the trailers is where it's at,
Yeah.
because.
Can we make an
smaller
asterisk
trailers
to
have to
follow up
license.
with the attorney?
Well, and what we could do is we could eliminate the semicolon after machinery and just say or trailers. It says
Can you send it back to
dismantled machinery
transportation?
or trailers.
Because we have so much tax revenue, let's just have the attorney do it.
You're hitting that hard.
Just laughing at various things, but
Okay.
So
So,
be patient. It'll be fine.
so we're really wanting to send this back to the attorney over the semicolon.
no.
So does vehicles include boats, four-wheelers? Like, when I hear vehicles, like, how is that gonna be interpreted? And honestly, when I was reading through this, what I thought it was about was that property that's next to the development, for Francis Commons.
Yeah.
That's got the boat and the vehicle, like right there.
There could be, you know, multiple, so like I mentioned before, we're not looking for issues.
Right, but this is what I thought of when I read it.
Someone complained about.
Scott, correct me if I'm wrong, vehicle is a established legal term, yeah.
Assuming you're referencing Utah code.
Yeah, so
Okay.
it should be
It would
covered.
apply. And I mean, you would just stick that under something else that fits under there, right? I mean, it could be machinery, for example.
Cause she had equipment, right?
Goods, it could be goods.
Yeah.
Do we need to just?
It's
add
pretty
those?
wide. It's pretty.
I just want to know how people are gonna interpret that, because it could mean just a car to some people.
Plus the other part is that it's screened, right? Ultimately, should be a tool, and as we've already heard this evening, it's supposed to be a tool to get somebody to comply with unsightly stuff on their property when we have somebody that's making a complaint.
Right.
Right, we're not out to get people, like when I do code enforcement, I'm not out to like stick it to them. Maybe this noise ordinance might be a different story, or the construction waste, but generally, when I talk to property owners, they want to clean up their property. They want to have their neighbors be happy. They're not out to cause problems.
Right.
Yeah. That was really the only thing I had questions about.
My only comment is I think that you did a great job putting all this together. I think that it pulls out the relevant information from both. And I think it's appropriate to have an option for people to have certain things that are screened away from public view. I think it's important to keep that in.
Okay.
So
Get it submitted.
let's recap. We suggest moving trailers and adding boats. Is that the?
Yeah, we could say inoperable, abandoned, demolished, dismantled, machinery, boats, trailers. Do we want to move trailers or not? Because I thought we did, but then we decided maybe not.
Based off Scott's feedback, I think was the not moving it. So I think let's rework it to include those things and forward with a positive recommendation would be how I would do it. Like, I think you have the gist of what we're saying. Take some time when it's not 8 o'clock at night to look at the sentence.
Yeah.
And encapsulate that and forward it on as a positive recommendation. So we would just need someone to make a motion that says all that, because I don't think I can.
I make a motion that says all that.
Accept that motion. Let's vote.
Aye.
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 Thank you.
Our next item on the agenda is My favorite, the RV Park Campground Code text amendment.
We're gonna make this short and sweet.
I have no comment.
Oh!
Yet again. Just when you thought you would never see this again. Just kidding, it's back. So the city council looked at this code amendment at their last meeting. They really liked it. They really do. They appreciate your time and effort. They
Well,
do.
they're gonna break up with us.
They have one thing they wanted you to look at, and I took a first, attempt at trying to get what they wanted. So they had someone there that commented and said, well, are we going to enforce this 90-day stay like the Forest Service says? The Forest Service, you can stay 14 days, but then you have to leave for a period of time before you can come back in again. And you have to move to a site that's like a half mile away. There's a whole bunch of rules. So I attempted to do something similar. I just added to what we already had about the 90 days per calendar year. And said, after 90 days, guests may leave the park for at least 72 hours before returning. The responsible party shall keep a record of occupants' names and make the records available to the city if requested.
We went from 1 calendar year to 72 hours.
Well, I just realized that looking at this again, because like I said, this is my first attempt, so let's make an adjustment there, because we did say they can't be occupied by the same guest for a period exceeding 90 days per calendar year. So then the Forest Service thing where you have to leave before you come back, that doesn't really make sense. Like,
What was the council's intent? What were they trying to?
Yeah.
I think that they were trying to.
I think they were
get
trying
that
to
code.
accomplish the same thing, but
Yeah.
they didn't realize what we'd already done.
Right. I think they wanted to have like some type of enforcement mechanism, so maybe we just need to leave in that the responsible party, whoever running it, has to keep a record of it, and then we can look at those records if we need to. Maybe we just take out the sentence, because I just realized that really doesn't work. And then take the sentence out. And
I
then
mean, it does make sense if it's a calendar year and it's like 2024 and they stay up until December 27th or whatever, 28th, I don't know how many days are there. They have to leave
December.
at least 3 days before they come back in January.
I guess in that case,
You're right.
in that
Would be
one
logical.
very specific
One
case.
case, it makes sense.
I think, the intent was to allow people to occupy a potential RV campground for the summer.
Right.
And
Not live there.
And not live there, because that's not what we want in our town.
Yeah.
So I think, as I see it, I think you're probably fine, and if someone finds that one tiny little loophole, I think we have a bigger fish to fry, don't we?
In December.
So.
In December, exactly.
Was the original intent there, it's using the term site, so is the idea that of somebody that's in a site, is that defined as like one place, like one campsite?
And I think that's what I was thinking.
I feel like that just says
that
you can't be in
addition
that one, but you can move
To another
2 hours,
site.
72 hours,
So
and
it
then
needs to
move
be
back
the
in.
entire campground.
We want your RV or whatever to be still movable. We don't want it to be some kind of permanent.
But then we don't want you moving to each side.
We don't want you
every
just to
90
move
days.
over. We want you to leave for a little while,
Yeah.
like maybe 3 days, and then come back and move to a different site. Are we okay with that if they leave for 3
Well,
days?
that's what I'm wondering if that was the intention, because it
Yeah, I
feels like,
think that's probably what I was thinking, but now I see the calendar year thing, that's kind of weird too. Are we okay if they leave for 3 days, they come back to a different site?
No.
Yeah.
It's not open for public comment, but knock yourself out.
I just wondered, where are RV parks and campgrounds in city limits?
They're not, but there keeps being like scuttlebutt, so.
Interesting.
So before, the idea is to have a solid, code in place. So that way it's clearly spelled out. So, and that helps out, and I'm really not trying to be a jerk here, but that helps out with things like the hotel.
Yeah.
Like we already have a dark, we already have a dark skies ordinance, we already have a noise ordinance. All that's available for them to review.
Yeah.
So this is the same idea. So yeah, I think we just need to work on this paragraph, right? Like to Scott's point.
Right.
We don't want them to pull out and then back into the next site over.
Right.
The idea was that they camp for 90 days and then be gone. And then they can come back next year and do it again.
So why don't we just
So
change it to
change-
a person?
Yeah, just change site to individual.
Okay.
Yeah.
Or group.
No, then your wife's gonna rent it for the next
Yeah,
90
put it
days.
to group, no group, yeah.
No. Occupant.
I think occupant's the right word.
Okay.
So
Or guest.
So I hate
How
to
about
say
guest?
it,
Yeah, guest,
so if you make it occupant only, then theoretically, the same trailer could sit there
That is true.
the whole year, forever,
Someone
and
else.
then only the occupants change. So,
That's true.
so seriously, so.
Occupant and vehicle, occupant and trailer.
Yeah, I think you have to connect them, because like, there is definitely a thing, like, in other parts of this country, right, where people are living in RVs like this, where you have people that are like delivering these wrecked RVs for people who live in on the side of the road, and they're like renting them out.
Wow.
So
I think let's
you can
just-
imagine somebody puts their RV in there.
Let's completely derail and say, do we just need to add a line that says the intent is that
Yeah.
no person or vehicle shall occupy this greater than 90 days in the calendar year?
yeah, clarify the intent.
There
The intent is that no person or vehicle shall, what's the next part?
Occupy this space.
Well, no, I wouldn't even tie it to a space, shall be a guest greater than
Yeah.
90 days in a calendar year.
Yeah.
Lawyer, how'd I do? Yeah, guest. I think other than guest, I mean, just because, what if the owner of the property puts the trailer and then it's not really a guest?
We need to use the word remain.
Yeah.
Yeah, there we go.
Okay.
Very good.
And then I think I am good with Katie understanding after the 15th time that we've done this, that she understands our intent and shipping that back up.
Okay, so here's what I'm gonna, do you wanna change anything in red?
No.
Well, I thought you'd already deleted out the after 90 days, guess. must
Yeah,
be-
that's what I'm making sure of that, so we're gonna take that sentence out.
That we need to keep records and we need to include that the intent is that,
Yeah, let me read it and make sure everybody's good with this part.
okay, go ahead.
No site located within a park established under these provisions shall be occupied with the same guest for a period exceeding 90 days per calendar year. The responsible party shall keep a record of occupants' names and make these, apostrophe occupants, and make these records available to city officials. It's not apostrophe. And make these records available to city officials if we requested. The intent is that no person or vehicle shall occupy, cross that out. The intent is that no person or vehicle shall remain greater than 90 days per calendar year.
Do we want to change it to, I'm just throwing this out, patron or something along those lines?
Cause you have person,
Or
what
is
do you
that,
have?
or is that gonna go back to the
Occupant,
whole
what do you
like
have?
husband wife thing? I'm just saying, is it cleaner if we do it that way, but
Well, let's see, we have,
Guest is okay. I mean, it's a business.
we have some definitions. We define cabin, occupants, responsible party, and RV.
So I think if we
So
define it,
occupant
let's
is
use it.
individual staying in an RV park or campground facility.
Yeah, so just using the same language as.
Yeah, that's what I.
So I'd like to get rid of the clause, the intent,
Uh-huh.
because of course they're gonna be liable.
That is
I mean,
true.
it's a
They don't
philosophical thing as to
provide
whether or not you lie on intent, so I'd
That
get rid
is
of that.
true, that is true.
And I'd probably move that up to the end of the first sentence, add a comma, say and.
And no person or vehicle, or no occupant or vehicle.
Well, like now, you guys are gonna kill me, and I'm normally not this guy on the council, but now what are we gonna do about tents? I guess that's the person.
No occupant or vehicle.
Still an
Yeah,
occupant,
okay,
yeah.
all right, we're
I
good.
think
So
we're good.
we're almost good.
I think.
I got one little thing.
Oh.
It's quick though, you guys will all agree. So only this, so the part says records available to city officials if requested.
Yes.
It should be occupants, names, guests, whatever the word is, names, but the vehicle records also. Doesn't make any sense. How would we know what vehicles were there if we're not asking?
Ooh, I like it.
So just whatever terminology we would say, just full,
Vehicle, license plate.
well, just information. The sets of, both sets of information.
Vehicle information Okay. All right.
So we should make a motion.
Is there public comment on this? There's no.
There's not, but I mean, if you got like something quick, go for it.
I just think that you're trying to attract snowbirds to come up for the season, not for a 3-month thing. They come from Scottsdale, they come from Park City, they come from someplace. And so to limit them in that window, if you did 2 seasons, summer, fall, you can't stay more than 2 seasons, spring, summer, whatever it would be. That would open that up to let those people stay for the seasons they want to be here, because they're gonna go to Scottsdale in summertime. And then that would limit that, and just to get more of a season, because again, if you're at a campground, you want people sitting there, but you don't want them there all winter, but you want a nice Class A motorhome sitting there for 6 months getting paid and not worried about those people moving in and out. But if it was one consecutive season, it would be spring, summer, spring, fall, whatever it would be. You can't stay longer than that, and then that would give them a little bit more leeway. Because you do want people, if they're in a campground and this is their summer spot, and they go somewhere for the winter, you don't want them to go somewhere else for 3 months. Because they got 3 more months to do it, want to do something.
Nope, I appreciate it, ma'am. Did you want to say something? I'll let everybody else, so.
I was just wondering, is there a consequence for leaving it longer? Because up in the Uintas, there's abandoned trailers Monday through Thursday, and nobody makes a move.
So yeah, that would be a totally different, different thing. This is just about for,
This is a conditional use.
a conditional use permit.
I know, but how are you gonna get them out? Like, what are you gonna do to get them out?
We would, I think there's consequences regarding the business permit. They're actually further down complaints and ramifications in the amendment. Thanks. Okay, absolutely no more, I'm cutting it off.
Are we gonna have a motion?
I was weak, so we just need a motion. If I remember this right, we need a motion for positive recommendations with the changes we've left with Katie.
I make a motion for the positive changes recommended by planning commission for Katie to do, to be forwarded to city council.
Second?
Aye.
Aye. Aye. And then there's no minutes. We asked Santini about that, so just an update.
I think last month I said that, I'll let you know that the height amendment was approved by the council. And looking at that, reviewing it again with our attorney, we realized that the council was legally able to act on the city center zone portion of the amendment, but because we hadn't noticed it and we were planning on talking about the commercial zone portion, that we actually couldn't make, the council couldn't make a change on the commercial height. They hadn't properly noticed it. So the commercial height is going to stay at 40 feet for now. I don't think we'll revisit that anytime in the near future.
Because you had mentioned that earlier, and I'm like, what is she, it's,
Yeah.
what is that? But
Right, that
It
did change
now.
So we repealed that portion, so it is 40 feet.
Got it.
Other than that, I'm hoping that next month we can talk about our subdivision code, because we do have to make some changes by the end of the year. And I've been working with, hopefully, a consultant to get that done, so. Thank you, that's it for me.
Okay, Scott, do you have anything? Antini, do you have anything? Okay, with that, we'll adjourn.
Thank you.
Oh, you got to do that. I don't know. I forgot.